Driving business.
Got 25 minutes to the hour of 8 a.m. in the morning. It's a good morning from our team to you, wherever you are. And of course, if you're a business person who's just opened up your business shop, or let's say your franchise, and of course, those who are actually heading to their workplaces and you're tuning in, thank you very much for making it to Smart Means Business. And of course, we are your daily Kickstarter with updates that come up to give you more, of course. But of course, as we continue to informing you, we also remind you that it's important for you to have your investment somewhere, and your investments can easily be shaped up with Zabu, which gives you the advantage to invest in government bonds, not just rare investments, but with Zabu you can invest with government bonds with just a minimum of 15,000 Ugandan shillings. Zabu gives you that similar advantage. Use the USSD code *292#. Follow the prompts, select a product that you wish to invest in, and if it's a bond, you can select a preferred maturity period for that same bond. The markets on the Zabu platform open at 8:15 a.m. and close at 3:15 p.m. Monday to Friday. They are closed during the weekends and on public holidays. Zabu says that if you do not have an account yet, you can open up one with your NIN, and after opening up the account in the next 24 hours, you'll be able to invest in these government bonds and other products. Zabu, my money, my future. Altex East Africa, do something new. Now, switching our eyes to Karibu, East Africa, we start with the Kenya and Tanzania, who have apparently resolved 23 trade barriers following that particular President Samia Suluhu's visit. The two countries resolved the 23 restrictive regulations that had impeded trade amongst the two following President Samia Suluhu's visit in May 2021, according to what a government paper has revealed. Now, a new government paper shows that Kenya had initially targeted to resolve about 7 non-tariff barriers, restrictive regulations with which licenses, quotas, embargoes, foreign exchange restrictions, and import deposits in the financial year 2021-2022. But this jumped to 31, reflecting a warm relationship between the two East African community countries. Now, the drop in the number of these trade barriers, which pushed the cumulative non-tariff barriers resolved and eliminated to 256 by end of June last year. So they were eliminated to 256 of those. Now, there are things that came in moments after Samia Suluhu's visit to Kenya, and she had apparently just replaced John Pombe Magufuli, and at the time the president of Kenya was the former president Uhuru Kenyatta. Now, Dr. Magufuli's protectionist policies had occasionally flared up in a diplomatic spat between Nairobi and Dar es Salaam, which is about 13 of these. Now, the non-tariff barriers were resolved at East African Community's Regional Monitoring Committee meetings, helping push Kenya's export into the region in the financial year 2021-2022 to 192.4 billion Kenyan shillings in the reviewed period. Now, a year after the visit by Samia Suluhu Hassan, trade between Kenya and Tanzania crossed to 100 billion Kenyan shillings for the first time, signaling improved ties between the two countries. Now, the value of goods ordered from Tanzania included cereals, wood, edible vegetables that hit a high of 18.29 billion Kenyan shillings in the review period, according to the Kenyan Revenue Authority, which was data which was published by the Central Bank of Kenya. Now, there was also a 70.06% surge in goods bought from Tanzania, which outpaced that of exports, which grew at a 5-year high, resulting in a rare trade deficit of 1.02 billion. Now, Kenya's trade spat with Tanzania reached a crescendo in November 2017 when Dar es Salaam banned 6,400 live chicks from Kenya on grounds that they were smuggled into the country. Now, later, Kenya would also ban maize imported from Uganda and Tanzania arguing that the imported crop had been infected with cancer-causing aflatoxin. Lately, as Kenya ran short of maize, staple food crop, and retail prices of maize flour soared, the country turned to Tanzania to plug the deficit. And of course, that means the trade between the two countries is continuing to shape up. Now, away from that, let's head to Rwanda, where mixed reactions are trailing over the changes to the working hours for the private sector that has a diverse approach to performance. The implementation of the law of the new working hours has attracted mixed reactions among many of the players. The Office of the Prime Minister on November 11th last year issued a communique of cabinet resolutions, which among other things stated that the official working hours will be 8 from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., excluding a 1-hour lunch break. The changes that took effect on January 4th are designed to promote quality education as well as improving both workplace productivity and the family well-being. Now, the General Secretary of Rwanda's Workers' Trade Union Confederation, Africain Birabone, has welcomed the development, saying that employees are more productive when they work not more than 8 hours a day. The new directive presents a business opportunity where employees can use the adjusted morning hour to stop by and place their orders before heading to offices. Now, the changes in working hours do not affect the factory that operates 24/7 because employees work in shifts as usual, and in case one works overtime, they get their due payment. Now, the cabinet directive aims at reducing the working hours to 40, and labor rights activists have called for urgent amendment of the existing labor law, which states that maximum working hours are 45 a week. Now, according to the International Labour Organization, global standard working hours are 8 per day and 48 per week, with some exceptions. Well, that is according to what Rwanda is having from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. East African Standard Time is when they are supposed to be getting out of office. But when you look at the situation within Uganda, well, I believe the office time in Uganda is 8 a.m. It's more of the kind of working hours for most of the government offices here, from 8 a.m. off to 5 p.m. Then the others are supposed to be at work by 7:30. Well, this does not apply. When you look at this particular new law in Rwanda, it does not apply to those companies that are working 24 hours, that is 24/7. Those ones, because workers, obviously, the employees work in shift and are paid if at all they exceed their working hours in that perspective. But well, lastly, from Karibu, East Africa, in Tanzania, transporters have raised concern over a new tax. Now, which tax is this? The Tanzania Truck Owners Association, TATOA, have expressed concern over the newly introduced law regarding the taxation of road transporters that requires them to pay between 180,000 Tanzanian shillings to 2.79 million Tanzanian shillings per truck, based on the kind of capacity it has as it is moving across. Now, a press statement released by the Tanzania Truck Owners Association, which its members own more than 22,000 trucks transporting about 90% of port freight, say that such a dreadful fixed advance tax, which was introduced in the Finance Act of 2022 and is supposed to be enforced by this month, would be a huge burden to transporters in the country and hence make them less competitive. Now, it goes on to say that enforcing this law, if passed and implemented, will undoubtedly push a lot of transporters out of business, as they will be unable to afford the advance tax and hence negatively impact the logistics sector due to the lack of trucks or even trigger for inflation. Now, if transporters are forced to hike their prices to ensure business sustainability, TATOA recalls the finance bill of June 2022 that suggested a fixed presumptive tax at the rate of 3.5 million per annum, which would apply to individual transporters whose turnover does not exceed 100 million, and that the applicability would be voluntary. Now, the bill also put in place an option to submit audited accounts for long-distance transporter of goods, of which vehicles have 3 axles and above. Also, the maximum revenue threshold of 100 million was removed, and the Act provided for progressive taxation based on load capacity ranging from 180,000 to 2.79 million shillings. Now, the press statement goes on to quantify that with this legal provision, a transporter with 400 trucks has to pay an advance tax of 1 trillion shillings even before doing any business and realizing any sort of profits there in Tanzania. If we are to look at that now, of course, the transporters have their say on the same matter, which they do believe should be worked upon tirelessly if they are to at least experience something better at the end of the day. Well, that is it for Karibu East Africa. Now we're going to cross over to the international scene to see what is making headlines from there in the world of business. The act that is AGOA, where African countries may need more trade privileges with the United States, even as Washington reviews the African Growth and Opportunity Act meant to expand what the continent will be able to export. Now, at the end of the US-African Summit in December, Washington pledged to renew AGOA, bringing clarity to uncertainties that had befell exporters from countries such as Kenya. But now experts say that the narrow view of AGOA should be expanded to allow them to export more goods and henceforth benefit more countries that are able to make a diverse list of goods. Now, AGOA's legislation was first passed by the US Congress in 2000. It does expire in 2025, having been extended 4 times before. Now, initially, it was meant to last until 2007, but was amended to clarify on preferential treatment of African goods and other standards required of goods. It offers more, almost 6,500 products, duty-free access to the United States markets. Many of these exporters are small and medium enterprises that can only grow by leveraging the African Growth and Opportunity Act to their benefit. Now, as of December 31st, 2022, only 36 sub-Saharan African countries were eligible for the African Growth and Opportunity Act, or what is abbreviated as AGOA, out of the 54. So you can definitely see, and these 36 countries are into the sub-Saharan Africa who are eligible for the AGOA, that is the African Growth Opportunity Act. But of course, according to experts, Africa seeks bigger US trade slice in order for this to at least make more sense for them, or to at least be able to benefit from the act. Now, something coming in from South Africa is revealing that load shedding has left the manufacturing sector battered. Now, the sustained load shedding has been a severe drain on the manufacturing sector in South Africa, according to new data. Now, the recent data is coming in from ABSA's latest Purchasing Managers Index, the PMI, for December 2022, in collaboration with the Bureau for Economic Research, showing that despite a slight rise in the PMI to 53.1 from 52.6 in November, the underlying picture of the sector is still mixed. ABSA say there is a weak momentum in the Business Activity Index, dragged by persistent load shedding. Now, in December, ABSA reported a Business Activity Index of 45.2, down from November, which was 49.5, and October's reading of 48.8. The Purchasing Managers Index is a leading indicator of economic activity in South African manufacturing sector. Now, the index measures that the activity level of purchasing managers in the manufacturing industry, with a value of about 50 indicating an expansion of the sector, which is valued below 50 indicates a contraction. Now, in South Africa, the PMI is closely watched as a critical indicator of economic performance and can provide insight into future business conditions and trends. As indicated by ABSA and BAR's previous findings over the September 2022 period, when heavy load shedding was underway, both business activity and the number of new sales orders did plug. From Statistics South Africa, that is Stats SA, reveals that manufacturing production as a whole decreased by 1.1% in November 2022, indicating the first monthly decline in the manufacturing sector after a 4-month-long upward trend. This was also during the time of record levels of load shedding in the country. Now, the largest negative contributors included food and beverage production, which took off a negative 2.5%, wood and paper products walking away with a negative 4.5%, then petroleum and the other chemical products with a negative 2.5%. Now, according to Stats South Africa, the largest positive contributor to production and sales was the motor vehicle industry, which grew by 13.4% last year. Now, not only that, load shedding has been affecting households in South Africa for the whole of 2022, not only households, but as well as small-scale businesses. But the manufacturing sector has been greatly battered by the same incident. Now, okay, lastly, from the international news, U.S. flights are gradually resuming, according to what the Federal Aviation Administration has got to say. This is the FAA. Now, the normal air traffic operations are resuming gradually in the United States after hours of delays, according to what the Federal Aviation Administration revealed. Now, this follows a problem with the system that alerted pilots to potential hazards on flight routes. The Federation Aviation Administration had said flights would take off again, and it said it was continuing to look into the cause of that same problem. Now, flights already in the air were allowed to continue to their destinations, while flights from New Jersey's Newark Airport and Hartsfield Junction Atlanta International Airport resumed slightly ahead of others due to air traffic congestion in those areas. Now, authorities are expected to impose a ground delay program in order to address the backlog of flights which were halted for hours. The United States President Joe Biden has been briefed, and the White House said there was no evidence of a cyber attack at the point. Now, speaking to reporters, the president said that the FAA expects that in a couple of hours, they will have a good sense of what caused it, and they will be responding in time on the same matter. Now, in the tweet, the White House press secretary said that the president had called for a full investigation into the matter of the delayed flights, and the FAA said the source of the problem was its notice for air emission system. The FAA is the Federation Aviation Administration, and of course, apparently, the major U.S. airlines say they were closely monitoring the situation. On the other hand, American Airlines, which carries the most passengers annually in North America, said it was working with the Federation to minimize customer disruption. Now, Delta said it was safely focused on managing operations during the morning as ground stop of the Federation for all carriers had been ongoing. Now, adding that it would provide updates as soon as possible. Now, for international passengers, on the other hand, Air Canada, as well as the foreign carrier with the most flights into the US, say that the outage would impact on cross-border operations by Wednesday, but it could initially say to what degree that carrier said it would put in place a goodwill policy so affected passengers can change their travel plans across North America. Now, Virgin Atlantic said it was continuing to operate its schedule of US flights departing from the United Kingdom. However, some US departures may be affected by delays. Now, the British Airways said its flights to and from the US were continuing to operate as planned, as the Federation Aviation Administration revealed that now the flights are continuing to take off gradually following a situation of delay, as they are still looking at the potential hazards that had affected different flight routes within America. And of course, that is it for the international updates. Of course, here with the kind of situation. Just a few days back at the Entebbe International Airport, there was a kind of a disruption with the Turkish Airways that did not fly off at the same exact time, but later on flew out of the country after the disruption had been settled in that same matter. Turkish Airlines, that was an update which was coming in from the Civil Aviation Authority here in Uganda, if I'm to put it in that aspect of aviation in Uganda's perspective. And just quickly run into our social media platforms for more business updates. Twitter, Smart24 TV. Facebook is Smart24 TV official. Well, and our Instagram is Smart24_TV. And the website is www.smart24.tv for more business updates, and both local and international as well. When I do return after the break, we've got social media trends coming up, more business updates. And only that, we shall be looking at the sports business and the latest from the entertainment business in the same hour of your daily Kickstarter. Good morning.